and given the verbalization, you're in charge, saying what our code is, and as we said, 843, 563, last digit being 3, contact, okay? But as we're doing all this, we want to get here early, okay? Our binding, again, we're going to assume that we're underneath. Now, one thing that this guy really wants to be up front, what I'm looking at is these two guys binding on themselves, okay? And this guy, fly platform, you're up in here, okay? Now, get this. This is what and we have this natural cock just by the way we are right now, okay? Just by this leading. The next thing in here is wheels, and which I see a lot of you do, and it's good. You can get as far over into him as you want to, okay? As he comes far, see, as I move far over, you want to stay in tighten with me, okay? So you should almost be turned like this, coming in, getting that lead so they can't even get at you, and you're bumping. You're right in there. A thing that I watched just in the you did it from the loose head, and a lot of you do it from the loose head, is picking up your feet. If you pick up your feet, just again stand on one foot, you're easily pushed around, okay? So what we want to stay back here. I'm going to keep this wide line, don't move, and I'm stronger, and you're going to be in here, and we go right through like that. So basically, you're going to sit well across of me. The wheels, if you were the tight head, come up and be the tight head, be binding on me, and you're way up in here. Bring this foot up, okay? And see, we have this angle right in here. And the one thing that you want to do is the two of us want to attack the loose head or the tight head on my side. So the both of us go for him. Your shoulder, drop this shoulder so he can't come into you, and you're trying to get to the hooker or the inside of the loose head over here. Right. Okay. So and that's how we kind of look. So the more you try to move it up here, the less you kind of lose that. The more you bring your feet up, it becomes unstable. Okay.
So where does this guy get his strength? He seems like to be just like this, and he can be a lot more pushed back like that than like this. See, where does he get his strength? By leaning way in?
You're talking about your one foot. When I use the one foot, I usually push forward with this one at the same time lift that one up to get the channel.
But you have the channel automatically, just like this. The channel. You have the channel. Maybe this foot's going to come up a little bit. But if I'm staying back in here now, you come almost sit, you can even sit and put that wherever. Okay, now see how you're coming further and further over? Yeah. And you're coming closer. That ball is right in here and you're right back. And you'll get that smack ball. The further you stay away, then the further you have to reach. Right. So you want to come in. I want to show you something. I want you to come over. Look how much closer you're coming and turn. Okay? See how closer you are to this?
Get a lot closer to you. Get way on your arm.
Sure. See, look at, now they can't come to us to split us. Okay? And we're sitting right in here. Okay? Now, and turn and come. Get as close as you want to. Now that foot's naturally going to go back. But see, now you aren't reaching anything. Your foot's going to be stronger. Right?
Yep.
Okay? So that would go for all the hookers, okay? Now, hey, we're not going to change. I'm just going to give you these tips. If you can try to use them, use them. If they're so uncomfortable they're going to fuck you up, then go back to what you're doing. But all I say to you is, if we're asking you to push off one leg, you ain't going to give too much of a push. And all I want is a real stable platform here and solid as a rock, okay? Where this thing starts moving around is when you lift up the one foot. And the same with you. If we're going to lift up a foot, we're going to lift it up and put it down and push it forward. Right. We're not going to lift it up for them. Okay? The next thing is, let's just get that position in back groups. Go ahead. And try it again, pull it in. Okay, now, again, put your heads together. The more you turn sideways and hugging him, see how much tighter you're getting. Now, come on.
Back on my leg now?
He's almost sitting.
Yeah. Is that all right? I mean,
no problem.
Well, one leg.
I don't know. Hey,
I'm sitting on your leg.
Okay, I just wanted you to try this. Okay, now the next thing.
I feel good about my shoulder under your socket there. You know, hey, I don't know how you feel about that. But you're
listened to me before. I'll write it up here in big letters, and that's. And tough. And so many times we get out in the field, whether it's a practice or a game, and it doesn't have to be the last couple of minutes when everyone's tired, but even the first couple of minutes, and everyone is out there passing the ball back and forth to each other, and no one is saying, you know, I'm behind you, I'm wide, I'm left, I'm right, and we almost expect everyone to know. It's like magic. It's almost like it's a macho thing to not say anything to your teammates, and you just expect them to know where you are. So I think we want to get out there, and from the very first time we're passing the ball around in the unopposed, I'd like you to be talking to the guy next to you. We want to talk from the kickoff. We want to talk to the very end of the game. Never stop talking to your teammates. Let them know where you are. Miss me, I'm wide, I'm behind you, watch out. You know, just keep talking, because you're the eyes of the guy next to you to a very large extent. So we want to get that in our head, and it's very, very difficult for some people to do. I want to talk first about attack in the open field, and if we talk about this as the ball carrier, we want to have, and he's going this direction, we want to have always one player directly behind the ball carrier. At almost virtually every situation in the game, we want to get one player behind that, and there's an area which we might want to call this area, which we generally call the pocket. So if you hear someone say, I'm in the pocket, or just the word pocket, that means, you know, if you're in trouble, get the ball back to me, and you can almost do it blindly. You're about to be tackled, you're not sure what you're doing, put it through your legs, over your head. Once you get the understanding for a teammate using that word pocket, he's telling you not only is he there, but that it's safe to get the ball there. So that's a general area of the field, and one of the reasons we're not afraid to put the ball back in that area is because in 15-a-side rugby, if we start moving the ball backwards too much, there's so many players on the field, they can just keep pushing us backward and get us into trouble. But in sevens, there's so much space that often, I like to say that it's not a game for putting direct pressure on people to just run them over, but it's a game to outmaneuver people. So if you want to think about basketball, playing against a zone defense where you move the ball around very quickly, get a defender leaning the wrong way, and then you go, it's sort of similar here. And if you think about sevens rugby in basketball terms, you'll probably understand the game maybe even more than if you think about it in 15-a-side rugby terms. So keep basketball in your head when we're talking about this. One of the ways that we get somebody in the pocket is to execute a pattern which we call the swivel line. And I'll just talk you through it once, and it'll be a lot more apparent to you when we get out in the field. But let's imagine an ideal situation of 7 guys. Again, they're going this direction. The ball is in this player's hands. The pattern is pass, drop in behind, pass, drop in behind, pass, drop in behind. So at this point, we have the ball is here. We've got a player directly behind the ball carrier. He can go either direction. Actually, these guys are starting to move behind this player, so he can continue to move out to his left, or if he goes directly to the pocket, by the time the ball gets there, these 2 guys will have moved in support, and so we're clearing the ball away from pressure and away to the side of the field. And it's very important that we really think about having 6 guys behind the ball at all times, because if you think about a situation where you pass and you don't work to get behind the ball, now you're really playing 6 against 7, because all the 7 defenders are still in the game, but anyone who's in front of the ball is out of the game. And so you may find yourself, if you're on offense and you get very tired near the end of a game, you may find yourself really in a situation you're playing 3 against 7. So we got to really think about working hard to get behind the ball. And again, we'll try to work on drills that'll make you do that. When we have a player, for example, this player is the ball carrier, and he gets tackled by a defender. Let's make it not quite such an obvious situation. Let's say he's got one support player here and one support player here. One of them is sort of moving into the pocket area. One of them is sort of static. He's being tackled. If this guy can get to the pocket quickly, he's just going to call pocket. The ball's going to come back here, and the other two support players will get it. If he's caught in a situation where I want to back up to that for a second, because he may be in a situation where there's no defender here, and then, you know, you just take the simple option, you just run off and you're into space, and you're just like you would in any game of rugby. So we don't want to overcomplicate the game. If this guy's got the ball, he's being tackled, there's a space there, and you're in support there, you run off it, and you go, and we just play the game, and everyone supports. But let's say there's a defender on either side, then we want to get the ball out into the pocket, and as the ball comes into the pocket, either this player, if he's behind the ball, or this player should be telling the pocket guy left or right. Immediately, the ball gets cleared into space, and we go on. now in the situation where this guy can't play the ball. It's tied in. He's got the defender's got an arm around it. We want to, these two guys maybe have an equal chance of getting to the ball first. They may both start for the ball. Then we want, it's a communication thing again. Somebody screams, "I got ball." And so if both of these guys are heading to the ball and this guy says, "I got ball," he's going to run and take the ball. And this guy's going to change, come back here and say, "I got pocket." And the nearest guys over here are going to move into the left and right support positions and call for the ball. So these are all things that we can do pretty easily in an unopposed situation, and then hopefully you'll see how they work when we go to opposed. And we'll do some drills to create that swivel line situation. One other thing on attack, before we get to that, before we get to defense, is supporting a break. Let's just say we've got, and I won't put all 7 guys up, but this guy's made a break down the sidelines, okay? And he's going in for a score, but he gets run down by defenders coming across here. So often our tendencies are to run a second player right through here, when what's happening is another defender's corner flagging here, a third defender's corner flagging here to make sure he doesn't score, and we go run a guy in through here, and we might have 3 guys open on the other side of the field. So what we'd like to do is send, this guy's down here now, we want to send our next support player back here into the pocket and bring our other guys over here all lined up in a row. So we've got ball carrier, pocket guy, 5 guys across the field, and probably we've got at least 3 defenders in this corner, or maybe 4. So those 5 guys are looking at probably a 5-on-3. And usually, if we get it out cleanly, those 2 guys, they'll end up with a 2-on-0 or a 2-on-1 at worst. So let's think about, again, we always tend to focus so much on running alongside the ball carrier that we never use the space that's available to us behind, into which we can move the ball and then move it across. So that's one thing we want to work on supporting breaks. Are there any questions on...
The first call going against the American West, obstruction. Ball goes out on the penalty to the east. Atlantic with their spread offense. Grant Basham, straight back looking for some space. And they finally got some movement. With the ball now is Keith McLean out of Philadelphia. Still on his feet. And gets some help. From across the field was Brian Collins. And the little fly half takes it in for the first score.
We saw some great patience by the part of Brian Collins away. Really nice play. Here you see Keith breaking 1 tackle, stiff arms player there. And that's nice job of staying on his feet and gives it to Brian, who's a good finisher.
It's sort of inexcusable at this level, but that's the way it is, I guess.
Well, a chance for East 1. They spin it out wide, and they get it out wide. Let's see if this man can cut all the way down the far sideline, but Camp gives it up beautifully. East 1 still with it. Dave Priestis gives it up for Ciano. Here's Ciano, right down the middle of the field. 3 men on him. He gives it up to Flamish. Flamish gets it out wide to Hill. Prince Hill dashes for the try line. Try for East 1. They get on the...
You got them all right there, yeah. You got them too. They're all there. They're all there.
There's two standard ways of playing defense. One of them is with, we call 6 players, a 6-player front. Another was with a 7-player front. And I'll diagram both of them. Let's say we have, for the sake of simplicity, we'll draw 7 guys straight across the field. Now, the old traditional way to play defense, and actually it's the way a lot of people are still doing, or it's been revived to some extent, is to think of it as having 6 guys in the gaps with 1 guy deep, and this guy would sort of follow across the field depending on where the ball was, in case it was kicked, almost like a fullback, or we call him a sweeper. In case the ball is kicked, or in case someone misses a tackle here, he's there to slow down the attackers while they regroup. These guys here would have responsibility for either one of those 2 guys depending on where the ball is. So if the ball is here, obviously this guy's got to have this guy, If the ball's out here, everyone will have pushed one out, and this guy will have him, he'll have him, etc. Okay, so it's a real communications issue, but with communications, you can actually play pretty good defense with those 6, and you do have the advantage to some extent if you're coming across at an angle, and you'll be taking the guy at an angle instead of head on. And you can also play 6 instead of with a sweeper. If you're playing against a team that doesn't kick, you can play 6 with a chaser, where the 7th guy is sort of free to do whatever he wants. So if the ball's here, the 7th guy may be just a ball chaser. Now, if you were the attacking team and you saw that happening, your tendency would be just to bang the ball down the field because they'd have no one guarding against the kick. The second sort of standard way to play defense is to think of yourselves as playing man-on-man here. And when I talk about man-on-man, again, it's more like a basketball man-on-man, it's like a switching man, because if these 2 guys switch, you're going to stay in your lanes. If this guy loops around him, you're going to switch out here. I think you guys probably, especially those of you that play backs, are probably familiar with that kind of defense. But really, this guy will take the 2nd player from the left, and no matter what happens, he's going to have the 2nd player from the left. So if these guys move around, so as this guy comes across the field, you're going to keep rearranging yourself so that you're going to have 1st player, 2nd player, 3rd player, etc. We don't want to follow people across the field. We want to stay in our lanes. But the way we play, the way we'd guard against the kick in this situation is, if the ball's over here, this player would be rotated back in here to guard against the kick. As the ball moves to this midfield player, this guy would come back to a mid situation. This player would rotate out to a mid situation, and now we've got 2 players sort of half playing the kick. And as the ball gets all the way here, this guy's going to come back and cover the ball here, and this player will be back here playing probably not quite halfway across the field, but maybe 30 to 40% of the way across the field. So those are the 2 standard ways, and it depends a lot. You may have a team philosophy. You want to play one at all times. It may depend who you're playing against, if they have a tendency to kick. It may depend on what part of the field you're on. If they've got them deep in your own territory, you may want to have one guy back in case they try a long clearing kick. And I don't have a particular favorite between the 2 of them. We can try both of them today and see what works. One thing that we want to be aware of on defense, and I know at the national level now they're just using the word red, and it's a good word to think about now. If we catch a ball carrier up here who's isolated, and by good defense we've pushed him back there, and he's got no support guys on either side to clear the ball to, and you hear the word red, that means everybody goes rushing through. We can overcommit 2 guys to that ball carrier. We can start flooding the passing lanes with people because he's got nobody to clear the ball to. So once you catch a guy who has no support, go in for the kill. Right? Otherwise, if you just stand back and try to play one-on-one and watch what they're doing, some guy with good moves, some guy with power is going to take some little guy on, and they're going to get through. So once you got defensively, we got to put them under pressure, get them under more serious pressure, and then once we get somebody isolated, go in and clean his clock. That's all I really want to cover right now. That's sort of attack and defense in open field. So if anyone's got any questions, I'll be happy to take them. If not...
Chance to run and clear. McMaster to Alan Crowley. Rano Boddicker. Sinzan Brook. Boddicker coming around inside of him. And Terry Wright is now on the opposite wing. Barry Williams is coming across to cover. Terry Wright is known in Auckland as a speedster. Manages to get it inside to Rano Boddicker. The 3rd try for the New Zealand Sevens. And clearing out from their own goal line to put the score away now to 14-0. 16-0 into the 2nd spell. Flicked back from the scrum. Saunders keeps it in play to Tom Smith. He keeps it in play dangerously to Gaetjen. He manages to clear it. But it went forward. And the 2 teams just having a look at one another. It's been a pretty physical game. Saunders to Tom Smith. No way through. Throws it wide to Barry Williams. And they get the penalty an even closer range. Again the tap. Tom Smith Swift into Will Brewington, and the Eagles get a try with about 1 minute left in this match under the bar.
And we visit for the second time on World Sports Special the Cathay Pacific Hong Kong Sevens. And this time we're going to focus on the final of the plate.
The plate final was between two North American neighbours, Canada and the American Eagles.
A long kick into touch, and it'll be a line out. An American throw-in. Tommy Smith, the scrum half, one of the stars I thought back in 1981 and 82 when he came over here with the American Eagles, a tremendous scrum half, the top point scorer for the Eagles today. Gary Lambert, the biggest player in the plate tournament. Pushed off the ball there, it's a penalty kick to Canada. They take it quickly to Wyatt. To Stewart. Stewart out to McKinnon, he's going for the line. McKinnon, the top try scorer for the Canadians, goes in once again for his fourth try of the tournament. The Canadian top try scorer, a prop forward, but one with a tremendous turn of speed. It's to Shaniger. Shaniger through, gives it to Wilkinson. There's an overlap if they can get the ball out to Lambert. Lambert trying to bulldoze his way through, and he does!
Well, what a magnificent reply from the US. Shaniger with a nice step off the left foot. And look at this man, Lambert. He's like a human tank as he goes through two Canadian defenders. What a bust, and what a try.
This kick to put the American Eagles into the lead, 4 minutes of the first half gone. Taking his time, that's a good kick, and that's there. So the lead for the American Eagles, 6 points to 4. Here goes Smith, sells a dummy. Wilkinson, he had the overlap, didn't use it, but he's right through. Has he got the legs to get to the line? He'll get there, yes he will. Wilkinson puts the American Eagles further ahead.
And again, missed tackles here by the Canadian defence. Wilkinson couldn't believe his luck. The defence held off. Again, a nice step here, and he's got to sprint to the line.
And 8 minutes of the first half gone. 2 minutes of the half remaining. Wyatt puts the ball in. Basin. Out now, Thompson making ground. Out to Palmer. Palmer going all the way, and nobody's going to catch him. Tommy Smith might stop him going around behind the post, but that's all he can do as Canada score through Pat Palmer.
Well, good play there by the Canadians. They move the ball wide to the right. The Americans grouped in defense around the center of the field. And the speedy Pat Palmer given the overlap beautifully there. And it was a matter of sprinting some 75 meters. He had too much pace. And so Canada right back in the game, closing on half-time.
Smith to the big boy Lambert. Lambert pushing his way through, flicks it to Shaniger. Shaniger's got eyes on him, he can get the ball to him. Oh, he put a foot in touch, 1 foot in touch, as he was shouldered over the line. And that will be half-time and a fairly dramatic end to the first half. But I'm sure one right foot did just go into touch. You'll see it now.
Desperation tackle from McKinnon.
No more. Goes 10 yards. Vizard did well to get his hand on it. Here's the big Lambert powering his way through. Oh, a little inside pass to Shaniger. Back to Lambert. Stays on his feet. Wilkinson. Wilkinson, he's through. If he get any support to Lambert, a lovely reverse pass and a glorious try.
Well, that was shades of the pass that Glenn Eller threw to Peter Lucas in last year's Cup final. Magnificent understanding here. Just this little blind reverse flick, and the big man Lambert there on hand to score his second try. 10 points now, a very big margin for Canada to take back.
Wyatt restarts cleverly. Will it go 10 yards? Yes, it does. Oh, but it's picked up on the burst by Gaetchen, and he's going to run all the way. Gaetchen goes in, scores exactly where Lambert scored 30 seconds ago, and that surely is the end of Canada. And the whistle has gone. The American Eagles have had their best ever result. You see the dance of delight there. Their coach runs on. The American Eagles have had their best result, their first ever win in a final in the Cathay Pacific Hong Kong Bank Sevens. The plate is there.
This would be the kicker, and a traditional lineman is the two jumpers who are normally your props here on the sidelines. We're assuming that the player is going to kick here, and I'll talk about a bunch of different options in a minute. Hooker, scrum half. Our center, this guy could be here, he could be here. He's really a floating kind of a player. We want one player here, just to keep them honest, if nothing else. This player could be, if we're playing a sweeper system, could drop back and become our sweeper on defense. The easiest kickoff, if you know how to do it, and if they don't defend it properly, for example, if this guy isn't there, and you've got it, and that happens a lot. So you laugh there, but that happens a lot in sevens until you get burned by a couple times. Or even if they have four, they might misplace one guy. There's this little grub kick up here, and normally the play is the center then would come over here and help. And I've worked with a lot of kickers. Some like to chase their own kick, some would rather hang back. But one of these two players, let's say the fly-half chases his own kick, probably by the time he gets to it, he's going to have to cover it with his body because one of these defenders is going to be racing over to get to it. And the second player will come up behind him, say, I'm behind you, slaps it off the ground, and they put it into play. So that's something to always be aware of if they give you the space, and you probably want to practice it enough in your own team situations where you get to know what the space is and what it isn't. One thing I can guarantee you is if the ball goes 15 yards instead of 11, it's going to be too far. So you've got to work on your kickers, got to know how to kick that little slow roller that dies at 11. Okay, but it's a kick that if you execute it well and you're prepared for it, it will work for you if you choose it on the right occasions. It's not going to be your bread and butter, but it's something that could get you the key try in an important game. I coached in a tournament, I had a team in a tournament in Ireland last year, '92, and we played against the Welshman there. Probably the worst kickoff is one where you just put it in the air, they catch it with no pressure, and they just counterattack and run it down your throat. So you want to be able to put them under some kind of pressure. And for the most part, the most common kickoff in sevens is still the traditional high kickoff to the jumpers. It doesn't mean the jumpers have to try to win the ball, and we'll talk about that as we go on. So you need to know, first of all, can my kicker put it for my jumper? And for my jumper can be 11 yards up here, or I was just watching one of the tapes this morning that we did out in Tucson, and as Mike mentioned, we had Graham Basher from New Zealand, and one of the kickoffs was actually caught by his teammate at the 22 on the fly. So we're talking about if you got a kicker and hang it up that long, the deeper the better. You got the defenders turning around and running backwards. So you need to be aware of how good your kicker is, how accurate he is, and how quickly your jumper can get down under the ball, as to having confidence as to where he puts it. Okay, so let's assume for now that, well, let's assume first of all you don't have an accurate kicker. Then you've got to assume, I think, every time you want to play defense. So we'll talk about defensive options, but if you don't have an accurate kicker and you go flying down to win the ball, you're very much at risk. Even if you have an accurate kicker, it may be worthwhile to play defense, and I'll talk about a couple of defensive options. Probably one standard defensive option is the kick is generally going to come to this player here, and generally the support pattern is this player comes behind him to support, this player comes in to support as a scrum half, and this player will be reading. If a gap is left open for him, he'll shoot down the gap. If not, he'll come out and try to link up with the wing. So what this team is going to try to do is run it down your throat. And I shouldn't say yours. I'll sort of talk to both teams now. So you could be receiving or kicking team, so I don't have to repeat everything for receiving team. But if you're the receiving team, you want to try to run it down their throats if you can. On the other hand, the kicking team would want to play solid defense. So one guy has got to come up, and if you know you're playing defense, you just tackle this player. You don't go for the ball. You make sure you tackle him. This player will come in, and this first thing is if he can come in and get the ball away from him as second man in, kind of an action before he passes it. That's probably the best technique, because then we're still not in a rucker maul situation. Our third guy can still go in the lane if we want to. If he can't get there in time to do that, we're going to play like a keep away game where you're sort of fronting this player to try to keep the ball being passed to him. And if you can't do that, then you want to make sure you tackle him as he gets the ball. The third player here is usually going to have to look after this player here wherever he goes. So if we're looking at a situation where this guy tries to fly down, catch you off guard, and fly down the sidelines, this guy has to avoid being overcommitted up in here, so he can go back and cover the fly half coming through here. On my team, we used to put our wing here and try to do that, because once he got through space, he'd score every time. So that's something you can think about as well. And the fourth player is usually going to come in here, and he's going to have to be covering this fourth player here, and what we'll probably try to do is isolate the ball from him. If we just redraw those players again, I'll give you a little variation of that, which is that's sort of a standard defensive play. What I call a blitz defensive play might be where you actually come in, and the two prop, this prop comes in, tackles the receiving prop. This guy goes flying in much harder than did before. This guy goes tearing in, tries to keep the ball away from this ball. This guy comes in here. So we're trying to create a wall right in here to keep the ball from getting outside. It's very dangerous, it's very aggressive, but a lot of times what you're saying is we're going to let you win the ball, we're going to force you to turn it over. And again, you've got to experiment with it because it's vulnerable to this guy making a move on this guy coming through and getting into space. But it can be very effective if the other team isn't prepared for it, because especially if they're not very good decision makers once they get the ball in their hands, because they're under pressure and they may get rattled. So again, depending on the team you're playing against, if you're playing against a team with a lot of good athletes but not a lot of good skills, you may be able to get in here and disrupt them before they get the ball into space. Again, I think I've given you I've shown you probably what I think is the best alignment to receive the ball, and that's a 4-1-2. If you're convinced that this team is going to be kicking over here, this guy can start cheating over here a little and become a scrum half as he is in 15, becoming the link between these forwards and the backs coming out here. What I think you really want to look to do when you receive a kickoff, especially if you get it with no pressure, you get the ball back in here and no one's on you within a few yards. I wouldn't just move it across, well, you might want to move it across the field to attack, but don't just move it across the field to get into one of these swivel kind of situations where you're looping behind the guys because you're not attacking and they can regroup. You've got them under pressure here. I think if you get the ball without pressure, you just want to, like a counter-attack in 15, just want to run it right down their throats. Again, kickoffs are a huge